right, Aaron Brightman coming to you a few minutes after Rutgers' worst performance of the 2023-2024 season. Just a awful, dreadful performance in pretty much every way imaginable as they lose to Penn State at home, 61-46, without Penn State's leading scorer, Kanye Clary. And it was an absolute just awful performance. They were completely lost. Really kind of listen, Penn State only shot 38%. They only scored 61 points, but there were times where Rutgers looked lost defensively. They lost assignments. They got confused on switches. They were just out of sorts. On offense, there just seemed to be. They started the game very well. They were up 7. They were attacking the rim. They had purpose, and then all of a sudden, it was like, I don't know. They just they just stopped, and they started shooting threes. They lacked patience. They lacked discipline. It's very apparent. There's no point guard on this team, and it's a huge problem. And yes, they've shot terribly, and they did again tonight. But there's no point guard on the floor to organize this team, and there's no real leader. This isn't the point. Isn't to rip Andre Hyatt. He didn't play much in the second half at all after he missed that wide open layup. I don't think he came back in. He's tried. He's made an effort this year. He's given them pretty good production. He's given them a 110 offensive rating before tonight. This was, one of his worst games, but he's been pretty solid. But there isn't that alpha leader that can just take over a game and put this team on his back. And they don't have that. And they look lost out there. It was like everybody looked at each other to make a play. No one was looking to make a play themselves. Their footwork, it was just like they were stuck in the mud. It was a brutal watch. It was honestly very, very sad. It was depressing. I obviously got flooded on social media with reactions and people fed up. And, listen, rightfully so in terms of how this team performed. This was an opportunity. This was a golden opportunity to work your way back and beat a team that I honestly thought Rutgers was better than. And as bad as they've been offensively, I thought there were signs that they were breaking through. And tonight was a huge step back. Let's just go through the numbers real quick. In terms of shooting, they were 34% from the field, 17 of 50. They were 1 of 17 from 3. Brutal outing there. 16 of 33 from 2, which, that's actually an upgrade. That's what, 48%. That's way above their season average. They were shooting 39% in Big Ten play coming into this game. So it's they actually shot pretty well from 2 for them. They were just miserable from 3. They got to the line 22 times, made just 11 shots, 50%, 20 turnovers. The thing that really, aside from the turnovers, they were plus 15, 23. They were plus 8 on the boards at the half. They were minus 16 in the second half. And that's an effort thing. Penn State had 25 rebounds in the second half. Rutgers had 9. That's inexcusable. In terms of the turnovers, 20 turnovers, they forced 16. Penn State won the advantage, 16-11 in points off of turnovers. Second chance points was 10-9 Rutgers. The bench, that was the only positive, is that the 2 freshmen, Gavin Griffiths and Jamichael Davis, played hard. And they looked like they had they played with guts, they played with heart, and they played with purpose on offense. They did. Let's see. Davis was listen, I don't know why he's leading them in shots, but he led them. He had 10 points, 5 of 12 from the floor. he missed all his threes. I'm just looking at the stats here real quick. Let's see. He was how many rebounds did he have? Let's see. Sorry about this. Okay. So Davis had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 1 block, 2 steals, 23 minutes. He was -2, plus margin, plus minus margin. I'm happy with the way JaMychal Davis played. Gavin, I had said in my preview that I thought he was going to step up, have double digits tonight. He led them in scoring with 11 points, 5 and 9 from the floor. I liked how aggressive he was in terms of attacking the rim. He had a tip in. He was looking, to score. He had that block on Wahab in the first half that was called a foul. But he played with purpose out there. He played with guts. I don't understand why he was on the bench so long in that kind of like that 12-minute to 5-minute mark. They had Oscar out there. I have nothing against Oscar Palmquist, but if you're not going to shoot when you're out there, why are you out there? Because he passed up several shots that, they needed him to take. That's his value as a three-point shooter, and he didn't do it. And, Gavin was on the bench. I thought Gavin should have gotten more looks. It was obvious that he was hunting, and they needed to get him the ball. I don't think they set, aside from any out of bounds play, I don't think they set any pen down screens for Gavin tonight after they did a bunch against Purdue, and it was effective in getting him open looks. Didn't happen at all tonight. There wasn't enough sharing the basketball. There wasn't enough moving without the ball. There wasn't cutting to the rim. There wasn't, off screens off the ball. Even the high ball screens were just kind of like, let's just say, not crisp. And it was awful. It was really hard to watch. It was really disheartening to see this team just look so out of sorts and just let it all slip away, and listen, it wasn't like, it was a long way to go to get back into the NCAA tournament race, but I really thought that this team had a chance to make a run, to make things interesting and potentially make the NIT. And this loss is the type of loss that makes me very worried that the team might fall apart from here on out, and I hate to say that. I credited Peichel this morning. I thought he's kept this team fighting really hard. They've stuck together. Tonight looked like a team that was just uninspired and no cohesion whatsoever. I don't necessarily think that there's chemistry problems off the court in terms of this team disliking each other, but there just wasn't enough of playing for each other tonight. There just way too many instances this year where players try to take matters into their own hands and force things, and they end up taking low percentage shots, and it's like it's a domino effect, and it kind of weighs down the entire team. Turnovers were just a debacle tonight. How many players? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players had multiple turnovers. Simpson had listen, Simpson shot terribly once again. He was 1 of 7 from the floor, 0 of 4 from 3. But credit him. Listen, he led them in rebounds with 8. He had 3 assists. He had 3 turnovers, two steals. He was making an effort, but he just wasn't good enough. And he just isn't the point guard that they need him to be. Mawat Mag was playing really well offensively there. He was averaging 16 points over a 5-game stretch. He's now scored 2 points over the last 3 games, 0 points, 0 of 3 from the floor, 1 rebound, 2 turnovers, 2 fouls, a steal. I mean, he barely played in the second half. That was very disappointing. Andre Hyatt, like I said, 5 points, 2 rebounds. Cliff had 8 points on just 5 shots, 6 rebounds. He had 3 blocks. He did have 4 turnovers. He's playing hard out there, but they're just not using him properly, and he's obviously frustrated. I thought that he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt from the refs, but Listen, he's still taking some shots that are just, they're too far away from the rim. There's no touch there, and it didn't work. Austin Williams was just 1 of 5 from the line. That really hurt them. They were 11 of 22 from the line. Noah 0 of 4 from the floor. Did give him 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 0 points. Oscar 0 points. Wolf 2 points, 2 rebounds. Just not enough from anyone, and it resulted in it was an embarrassing performance. It was an embarrassing loss. I have to say the Rutgers crowd has just been fantastic. The rack was rocking. The stripe out worked. I think the student section, the Rutgers faithful at games this year have been fantastic. And now I worry that, it's going to be tough to fill the place moving forward, because honestly, this was a really disheartening performance. I know I said that word already, but it's truly what it was. That's what it feels like for me. This is a terrible loss, worst loss this season. First, bad loss just in terms of like metrics. I think Penn State is got to be a quad 3 loss. But it was just the way it happened. Penn State was, I think they were 11th now in Big Ten in defensive efficiency. They were the worst, I think, this morning or maybe yesterday. I don't know. They're not a good defensive team. And Rutgers delivered, just an awful offensive performance. Penn State's really good at forcing turnovers. I talked about that in the preview, and Rutgers failed miserably with that. Against the press, they could not handle it. It's just no one, it was like they played a little bit scared. And it kind of reminded me of the end of the Minnesota game last year. The way it was just like, it was like hot potato. No one wanted the ball. No one wanted to be the guy. I talked earlier this year about not having an alpha on this team, and it was very apparent tonight that was an issue. Not having a point guard. Obviously, you don't have any reliable shooters. But it was like everybody was trying to figure out how to do their own thing. And, I think that the intent is there. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to do the right thing, but no one is working in step with each other, and it has to fall on the coaching staff. Listen, you can be critical of Pikel in this moment and in this season at times. At the same time, reflecting on where he's brought this program, how far he's brought this program, what he's done with recruiting, obviously for next season. But for this season, and listen, it's people don't want to hear it, but losing Cam Spencer and Paul Mulcahy really set this team back farther than I realized. And they were not able to make up for it in the portal. They've been shorthanded all year, but at the same time, I think the upsetting part is that things that Pikel teams have done well in the past, this team doesn't do particularly well. They have rebounded better in Big Ten play, but again, this second half, getting out rebounded 25-9, that's a huge red flag. That's an effort thing. Defensively, they've been good at times, but they've been much more inconsistent than in years past. And offensively, they just they look lost and worse than they even have in bad moments before. And I don't want to say like this is the worst loss since so and so. Listen, the home loss to Lafayette 2 years ago was awful. So this is at the same level. I don't think so, especially with the talent that was on that team. That was just an absolutely brutal loss. But this is the most brutal loss for this season, and it's the most disheartening. And it's the first time that I've questioned whether this team can keep it together now, because they did not look together on the floor tonight. They obviously gave Purdue all they could handle in the second half on Sunday. I thought that would be a boost, and I don't know if it was deflating or not. Short turnaround. Like I said, they started the game. Finally, they started the game pretty well. They started with purpose. And, I do think there's a disconnect with the fact that we don't have a reliable point guard. I question how much the game plans are being executed to what the coaching staff wants. But at the same time, without Cam Spencer and Mulcahy, with the replacements you have, with the limitations you have, you would still expect more out of this team from a Pico coach team than he's gotten, and that's really disappointing. And this is literally right after the game, rapid reaction. I haven't listened to Pico talk in the post game yet. I'm sure he's furious with the effort. He's going to be a class act about it, but he's this was an uninspired performance in a game where you had to have, and you have tremendous support at home, and you laid an egg at home against a team that you were favored by 7 points to win, and that's not even just spread, just in terms of the metrics with Kempom, and this is danger zone now. I like I said, I thought they were gonna have a chance to climb back in. It doesn't mean they can't put together enough wins to get back in the middle of the pack. They're at Michigan on Saturday. Program's a mess over there. So maybe these guys can pick themselves off the mat and show us some heart and go out to Ann Arbor and get their first ever win in Chrysler. That would certainly be a positive step. But it's hard to have confidence that they will. Again, happy that the freshmen played well. Gavin Griffiths is definitely starting to click a little bit in terms of just his pace on the floor, his energy, the way he's moving. He's still his footwork's a little off, and spacing's a little off. His rhythm's a little off, but the intent is there. You can see things starting to slow down for him. I thought he's even been a little bit better defensively at times. But I think offensively, there was a fast break where he wisely kind of, spaced out to the perimeter, opened things up for the drive. Like he's starting to get it a little bit. And he's shooting with confidence. And he had a relative, other than the turnovers, I thought he played well tonight. And I really liked his attitude. And I'm happy that he followed up what looked like a stepping stone performance against Purdue, despite the poor shooting. Looked like he was close. Tonight was another positive step forward. And then JaMychal Davis, he gives them energy. He works his butt off, and he plays really hard. He makes some mistakes, but Gavin and JaMychal look like two pieces for next season. And I think they need to play. At this point, they need to play as much as possible. Unfortunately, I think just what you're getting out of the starters is not nearly enough. And, I think Pike will send a message with Mag and Hyatt on the bench most of the second half. But I think, listen, Derek Simpson, Austin Williams, they play hard, but offensively, this team is just really challenged. And depressing. It's that was a very unfortunate performance. Penn State's not good. Rutgers is obviously not a good basketball team at this juncture, and just troubled by the way they came out in the second half. I thought when they cut it close at the end of the first half, I thought they were going to be able to make some adjustments, and they would come out with energy in the second half, similarly to how they did against Purdue. And it was the complete opposite. The starters buried them out of the half. That was a huge problem. The starters just buried them. They fell into a 8-point deficit. And that's where Mag and Hyatt, really didn't see much action the rest of the way. So Pico's got to search for answers. He hasn't found them. I think that there's some limitations there. And I think, listen, you have to feel for him. Losing Mulcahy the way he did, that's, and as much as people want to criticize his game, when Paul had his head on straight and was healthy, he brought you stability, and they don't have it anymore. And Cam was your shooter. Cam was the guy that stopped runs. Cam was your reliable scorer that they lost, and you lose them in May and June, and it's just a reality. You say it's an excuse, but it's true. Based on how the roster was supposed to be this year, they were the starting backcourt, and they're not here. And again, Pico's got to find answers for that, and he's mixed and matched, and he's tried a lot of different combinations. The rotation has not shortened. I think that is an issue at this point. I think that it lacks flow. And I think you need more clearly defined roles at this point. And I think in part that's because not enough guys have earned them, won those roles. So that's part of it too. Um, People might want to make overreactions for the long-term health of this program. I'm not going to do that. I haven't lost confidence in Pikel as a coach or leader of this program. I've lost confidence in this team's ability to pull it together and uh, make a run here, because the way they performed today was miserable. And they don't look, they're not playing with joy. That was as, just clumsy, careless, and um, uninspired, disappointing performance that you could see from a Pico coach team. And there's really not much more to say. I'm just sad at this point. I'm sure Rutgers fans are mad. Listen, everybody has a right to feel whatever they want and vent however they want. And this was a loss where, everything's on the table in terms of how you feel. Because it was a kick in the, just a kick all over the place, over the head and the stomach. It was brutal. So I think that's enough rambling for now. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you for watching all my coverage of Rutgers basketball. I'm going to continue. Listen, this is we've been through as many losses and seasons as I have, and I think many of you watching and listening have. It doesn't make this any easier, but doesn't mean that you just quit, right? I mean, that's just people saying, I'm going to tune out the rest of the season. Okay, fine. See you next year. But I'm not going anywhere. And part of, suffering through games and seasons is the reward of when you get through the shit and you have success. And that's why that NCAA tournament win 2021 was so satisfying, because of how much we had been there through as fans to get there. And I believe better days will be ahead. And you have, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey coming next season. I know people are going to freak out and say they're not going to come now. Listen, it was an awful night. And let's hope that's where it ends. And this team can find a way to have some semblance of offense and, pull it together defensively and not just ride out the season and play uninspired the rest of the way, because tonight did not give much confidence. Other than that, although knowing Pikel and the way he leads this program and the culture that's there, I don't think that's going to happen. But at the same time, brutal performance, just awful basketball from Rutgers tonight, and they're now 2-7. They go to last place Michigan 2-8 on Saturday, and let's hope that they can get off the mat and show some heart and go out there and get a win. Thanks for listening and watching the Scarlet Faithful podcast once again.